Russian oil tanker nears Cuba. Trump threatens action. World watches in suspense. This headline flashes across TV screens and news apps around the globe. It's the top story in Washington, Moscow, and Havana. The world is glued to the drama on the high seas. One ship, thousands of miles, and a storm of diplomacy. People gather in cafes, living rooms, and offices, eyes fixed on the latest updates. Will the tanker make it? Will the United States step in? These questions echo in urgent whispers. Social media explodes with hashtags. Hashtag Cuba crisis. Hashtag tanker showdown. Hashtag oil war. The world senses something big is about to unfold. This is not just another political spat. It's a crisis with real-world impact. A story of power, survival, and resistance. The tanker's journey to Cuba has become a test of wills between nations. Every hour, the tension mounts. The world holds its breath. For Cubans, the stakes are painfully real. This is no ordinary tanker, over 300 meters long, packed with millions of barrels of Russian crude oil. It left Russia's icy Baltic ports, bound for Havana, Cuba. Its journey across the Atlantic is tracked by satellites, drones, and global media. This is Cuba's largest fuel delivery in years, a symbol of hope and defiance. U.S. warships and planes shadow the tanker as the world watches this tense maritime drama. In Washington, former President Donald Trump grabs the world's attention. He steps before cameras, his face stern. If that Russian tanker docks in Havana, there will be consequences, Trump warns. America will not stand by as Moscow props up a dictatorship in our backyard. His words ricochet around the globe. United States allies nod in agreement. Russian officials scoff. The Cuban government calls the warning an act of aggression. Suddenly, a single ship becomes the center of a diplomatic storm. Analysts debate what Trump means by consequences. Could the United States impose new sanctions on Russian and Cuban companies? Will American warships block the tanker's entry? Or is this just bluster, another round in the long game of United States-Cuba tensions? The warnings are serious, but so is the resolve of Cuba and Russia. Each side signals its readiness to act. The world watches, knowing that a wrong move could spark a wider conflict. Cuba is in the grip of its worst energy crisis in decades. Fuel shortages have plunged entire cities into darkness. Blackouts last for hours, sometimes days. Buses stop, factories close, and food spoils in powerless refrigerators. The island has few oil resources of its own. For years, it relied on Venezuela for cheap oil. But Venezuela's own crisis has dried up those supplies. Now, with United States sanctions tightening, Cuba's options have all but vanished. Enter Russia. Moscow sees a chance to help an old ally and poke Washington at the same time. Sending oil is both a lifeline and a message. Cuba will not stand alone, a Russian spokesman declares, and Russia keeps its promises. For Cuba's leaders, Russian oil means survival. For its people, it means hope for a little light, some food, and a break from constant worry. U.S. sanctions against Cuba are among the toughest in the world. They target the government, military, and key industries like energy, banking, and shipping. Any company that does business with Cuba risks being cut off from the U.S. market. These rules extend to what are called secondary sanctions. That means, firms in Europe or Asia can be punished if they help Cuba buy oil or parts. The result is isolation. Tankers turn away. Banks refuse payments. Even humanitarian goods are often delayed or blocked. Washington says the goal is to pressure Cuba to respect human rights and move toward democracy. Critics say the sanctions mainly hurt ordinary people. As fuel shipments dry up, the energy crisis just gets worse. Cuba's government blames the U.S. for what it calls economic warfare. Allies like Russia see the sanctions as a chance to challenge U.S. power. They call them unfair and illegal. For companies and ship owners, the risks are huge, but so are the rewards if they can deliver. For most Cubans, the crisis isn't about politics. It's about survival. "We have no light, no fuel, and soon, no food," says Maria, a nurse in Havana. Each night, darkness falls over neighborhoods. Children do homework by candlelight. Shops close early. Hospitals struggle to keep generators running. Medicines are scarce. The crisis touches every home, every street, and every heart on the island. As the tanker approaches, the risks multiply. U.S. officials warn of serious consequences if Russian oil reaches Cuba. Secretary of State Rachel Carter puts it plainly: no nation should aid a regime that suppresses its people. Meanwhile, the Pentagon quietly moves ships closer to the Caribbean. Russia fires back, and Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov warns, any attempt to block our vessel will be met with an appropriate response. Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel goes on state TV and declares, "We have a right to survive. We will not surrender to threats." Diplomats scramble behind the scenes, and European leaders urge calm. The EU foreign policy chief says, "Dialogue is the only way forward." In the streets of Havana, ordinary Cubans watch and wait, hoping for relief but fearing escalation. The war of words grows heated. Each side digs in. On the ground and at sea, everyone is preparing for the worst and hoping for the best. If the tanker reaches Havana and unloads its cargo, it will bring welcome relief. Blackouts could ease, hospitals could power up, and families could cook and clean without fear. Cuba's leaders would claim victory, and Russia would celebrate a diplomatic win. But what if the US makes good on its threats? A blockade or seizure could spark a major crisis. Russian warships might intervene. The situation could slip out of control, risking confrontation between nuclear powers. Even a standoff would rattle markets and alarm the world. Ordinary Cubans are caught in the middle. As Elena, a teacher, puts it, "We just want to live. We don't want to be pawns in their game." The stakes could not be higher. As the tanker nears Cuban waters, every hour feels like a lifetime. The world watches, hoping the crisis ends with relief, not disaster. This crisis is bigger than a single ship. It's about international power and human lives. Russia wants to prove it can help friends and challenge US dominance. The US wants to keep pressure on Cuba and send a message to Moscow. Cuba's ordeal shows how sanctions and diplomacy collide with daily reality. The people who suffer most are not politicians, but ordinary families. Their struggle highlights the human cost of global rivalries. The world faces a choice. Will leaders escalate the crisis or step back from the brink? Will politics or compassion decide Cuba's fate? The answers will shape not just this moment, but the future of global diplomacy and humanitarian action. The Russian tanker's journey is more than a headline. It's a test of national pride, global power, and basic humanity. The choices made in the coming days will affect millions, from Havana's hospitals to Washington's war rooms. For Cubans, the crisis is urgent and personal. Their need is real, their hope fragile. For world leaders, the stakes are high. A single ship could tip the balance toward relief or toward conflict. The world must not forget the human face of this drama. Solutions are needed. Dialogue, not threats. Aid, not blockades. As night falls again over Cuba, one truth remains. Behind every crisis are lives waiting for light. The world is watching. It's time for leaders to act with wisdom, courage, and heart.